Yeah, welcome to the Racer X Exhaust podcast. Jason Weigandt here today. We're going to talk to Jalek Swoll because people don't talk to Jalek Swoll enough, and because Jalek Swoll is out for now with an Achilles injury, he's bored. So we're just helping him have some friends, have some social life. So enjoy the next half hour with Jalek. He is bored, legitimately. That's not an insult. You'll see. Show, as always, brought to you by Yoshimura, yoshimura-rd.com. They have the answer to your exhaust needs. Do you know that the factory Honda worked bike over an MXGP ridden by Tim Geiser, now once again holding the red plates? Yep, that's got a Yosh exhaust on it, as do the factory Hondas here in the United States, whether the ones that are just sitting there on stands right now, the Lawrence Brothers 450s, or the ones that are being used by Joe Shimoda or Chance Hymas, depending on the coast. They run Yosh exhaust. Yosh synonymous with Honda and Suzuki factory teams for years, but they've also got exhaust for Yamaha's, Kawasaki's, all the Austrian brands, KTM, Husqvarna, you name it. Triumph, Ducati? I've asked. If there's interest, and I think there will be, you'll see it. Plus, if you got a street bike, pit bike, play bike, dual sport, off-road bike, Yoshi's got you covered. So check them out. Also, the show brought to you by OnTrack, which is the K through 12 distance learning school. It is real teachers. It is virtual school, not home school. And that's why this school boasts a 98% graduate rate. And do you know who is amongst the graduates of OnTrack? Jalek Swoll himself. Yes, went to OnTrack, graduated at Loretta Lynn's. They have a big ceremony there. So shout out to you, Jalek, getting the training and riding and traveling done while getting his high school diploma. That's what OnTrack does. So go to ontrackschool.com to learn more. Also brought to you by RacerX brand. I've got this cool, I'm going to call it Miami Vice style shirt, 80s style. Check it out, racerxbrand.com. We've got shirts. If it's still cold in your neck of the woods, hoodies, jackets, beanies. We got the Moto Everyday beanie that I just got in the mail. It's really cool. Check it all out at racerxbrand.com. Subscribe to the mag. Let's talk to Jalek Swoll. Well, this is a record. This is 2 minutes before I had scheduled this interview. Jalek Swoll, you already jumped on. This is like the first rider ever that was early for something. This doesn't mean you're bored, is it?
Uh yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I'm bored.
Uh,
No, it's good. Um, yeah, I'm normally late, but I got some time, so figured I'd jump in early.
yeah. So this is life. This is rehab life. Like, what's your daily, weekly routine right now?
Uh, well, I just kind of started being able to do some stuff. So
Yeah.
I've been doing some PT with Brownie and uh my buddy PJ and who
Mhm.
works with Webb. He's been helping me out, so I've been getting back to it a little bit. I'm finally out of the boot. I'm walking around my own shoes. Yeah, I mean, it's just been a whole lot of video games and Netflix, really. So,
Dude, that's a long time. What are we talking? Like 4 months here?
uh, for what? What do you mean? For like,
For since the injury to finally be able to walk without a boot and do normal stuff.
well, I got hurt January 8th.
Okay, so
So
three
that's
months.
like, yeah, it's what I'm at. I think I'm at 9 weeks, I think.
Oh, okay. I thought it was December. Okay, it was actually January. It was
Yeah,
off season
yeah,
for an East Coast guy. It was not the off season, off season. Yeah.
yeah. No, no.
So
I'm
you
pretty
were
sure it
just
was like
almost
nine.
about to start racing. You almost were about to start racing.
Yeah. Like I was like the I got hurt maybe Wednesday. I was gonna fly out Thursday to Anaheim to
Oh
watch.
man.
So it was like last minute.
Okay, from what I saw from the quote you had in the press release and all this, this was nothing. It wasn't a crash. It was
No,
nothing weird.
no. Like I had a pretty spotless off season. Like
Yep.
I got through, obviously SMX didn't go well or whatever. Feel like that was out of control or whatever. It is what it is. But going in off season, like I had such a good off season. Like
Yep.
nothing was sorry about that. Nothing was like stood out. Like
Yep.
I was riding really good. Obviously now I had teammates to like ride with every day to kind of know where I was. And like, for the most part, it was like me and Smitty would go back and forth on days. So like, I knew I was in a good spot. I knew Smitty was really good, and he always sends it, whether it's practice or not. Um, so I knew speed wise I was good, and I was feeling probably, I mean, for sure the best I ever have, and which I know is cliche. I know every rider says that
Yeah,
before
yeah,
coming,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I actually had the riders around me to know where I was at, which I didn't last year, and obviously learning the bike and all that kind of stuff, like it was pretty hard to put a guess on where I was going to be, but ended up being pretty good. And then like off season come around, and I was even a whole nother level above that. And yeah, it was a bummer, but yeah, I mean nothing. Like literally routine day, come over a tabletop, and I didn't even like overjump the tabletop. I literally landed on the downside, and the next thing you know, my Achilles was gone.
And you had downside that. It's not like you were even doing a different rhythm or anything.
Probably over 1,000 times this off season.
Dude, what the heck?
I
So
don't
I'm sure now you've talked to doctors and all this. Do they say this is kind
know.
of the way it goes sometimes? Like it's not
Yeah,
something
I've
crazy?
been I've been explained to from a few guys that like it's almost like the Achilles is so random that you just don't know.
Yeah.
I went to Vail. I went to Tomac's guy who did his Achilles, and like I was asking him like, dude, what I do? Like
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like everything went good, no soreness, no nothing, and then all of a sudden I'm just like out. And he was like, I've had people come in here who've literally stepped off of a curb and done their Achilles. Like it's not, it's just random. It's very
Dude,
random.
that's a scary thought, to be honest.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. When I heard him say you can just step off, I'm like, it threw me through a loop. I don't know. It's just kind of crazy. I feel like in our sport you never really hear about an Achilles, Like Tomac was like the first I ever heard, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's so crazy. And then
Now it's
literally,
starting to happen more all of a sudden,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but you also don't know why that is either.
I've ran through it in my head a few times. I mean, I feel like before, like coming up like before the Lawrences were obviously so good, but their technique, like I feel like the emphasis was more like go fast, be as
Yeah.
fast as you can, no matter how you can do it.
Yep.
And I feel like now since the whole game has changed to riding more like proper and more efficient, I think everybody has slid their feet back and
Yep.
onto their toes. And I feel like when you don't grow up riding like that, or you don't have that, that muscle memory of it, I feel like maybe your body just works a little bit harder at it, because you're forcing yourself to do it and you haven't been doing it for so long that maybe that's what like
Hmm.
puts the stress on the Achilles. Because I feel like more now than ever, you see people like trying to ride like very proper. You know what I mean?
Yes, more riding on the toes, and we've seen more Achilles injuries. Not a ton, but we went
Yeah.
from like zero ever to like you're maybe the fourth or fifth time we've heard of this now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I heard
Yeah.
something.
I mean,
Uh,
like Barry did his at Anaheim 9, right? Like,
right. That's right. That's right. And you're tight with
mm,
them, so I'm sure you've talked to him about this.
yeah, it's crazy. I don't know what you can pinpoint it on, but I mean, to me, that makes the most sense. I don't know. It's hard to
Yeah.
say. Random.
That's interesting to hear. Yeah. So when you were growing up and you were always pretty fast as an amateur and always successful,
Mhm.
but you were just riding, it wasn't constant form work, or did you do some of that or none of it? How did that work?
Uh, I mean, yeah, I like when I was, because I trained with the Bell Brothers before I went to the Ferries, and that was like go fast,
Yeah.
just go fast, however you can do it.
Yep.
It didn't matter how you looked doing it; it was just go fast. And
Hmm.
so I grew up like more of that style. And then when I went to Ferries, it was like he was pretty proper when it came to riding, trying to like get my elbows up and do that kind of stuff. And like it was harder. It was definitely harder for me to get after so long. Just, you know what I mean? I'd be able to do it if I was going slow and like
Yeah.
slowing down. But as soon
Yeah.
as I went like all out speed, I'd kind of go back to my normal.
Yeah.
Um, so it's slowly gotten better over time. But yeah, Ferries were pretty hard on me for trying to get better. But I'd say it's still a 50-50 now. I'm trying to get better, but 50-50.
Yeah, yeah. So you do work on that now. Like the off season you were doing technique stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Brownie's always on me about my elbows and shit like that. So, yeah, he's been helping out a pretty good bit. And, yeah, I mean, I try, but like, let's face it, when you get like going and it's like you're only locked in on what's in front of you, it's pretty hard to like slow it down. That's why, like, I mean, obviously, it's probably pretty routine for the Lawrences to ride like how they do, but it is. I give those guys props. Like in the heat of the battle, those dudes always look like they're, you know, just relaxing, kind of just in a
Yeah.
good spot. But yeah, I've been trying to work on it. And outdoors last year, I feel like I started to a lot more. I started riding more efficient, especially at the end. Like when I got the bike locked in for me, like at the end there, I was pretty much top five every weekend. So yeah, I feel like I've come a long way. Obviously, we still got some more to do, but I feel like everybody has some work to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then someone else is going to come along that's not worried about technique and is just
Yeah,
ripping it. And then we're going to flip back the other way, right?
yeah, yeah. No, I like to be kind of in the middle. Like obviously, there are some things that need to be better. Riding on your toes and riding with your toes in is like big no matter what.
Yeah.
But I do try to have my own style too. I know a lot of guys try to base everything around how the Lawrences look, you know,
Yep.
especially now. But for the most part, if I look like shit, I look like shit. As long as I'm doing good, I don't really care. You know what I mean? Like,
That's we should get that on your butt patch at the back of the pants or something. Like
yeah,
we do not care. That's great.
yeah, no. If I can go fast and I can do it not on the ground,
Yeah.
then I choose to be that way.
You know what's funny? I feel like you as an amateur guy, were to me you were a consistent guy. I didn't think of you as like a balls to the walls. He's going to go fast, but he might crash. I feel like actually being solid was one of your things. Actually,
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't feel like I'm ever like on the ground a lot. I feel
yeah,
like, I mean, it's very weird. Like, I definitely have had, obviously, my humor has kept me out of Supercross that one
yeah,
year, whatever. But even like all last year, I mean, I stayed out every round. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I had one crash with Anstey that wasn't on me in Arlington that kept me out of that round, but I made it to every round. I raced our whole season. I mean, I feel like everybody is still like the SMXs are cool, you know, for a payout at the end. But I feel like those are more bonus races. Like I made the season.
yeah.
So I've proved that I can do that. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've always been consistent. I've never been the dude to like ride over my head to the point where it's like iffy, you know.
Yeah.
If I'm comfortable, I'm going fast. If I'm not, I'm fine with like taking something that's not probably, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not to say like I'm just letting whatever happen, but like, you know what I mean? If you feel like you're going to be on the ground, like, don't take the risk, make the next race and be better. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
Yeah, I think you were kind of known for that, not just a full send, yeah,
Yeah.
14-year-old like so many 14-year-olds
Yeah.
are. Hey, so this news came in that you signed a new deal. So that's actually pretty cool, even though
Yeah.
I don't even know if you know when you're going to be back racing, but at least you got some security.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I was pretty adamant with Trent that I wanted to stay here and I wanted to resign after last season. It just kind of took this long to do it. But it is cool. I know it's not normal for teams to sign people, especially not when they're not even out there. So I think that shows good loyalty from them. I think it's a good payback for last year. You know, I feel like no matter what, I try to be out there just for them. You know, even when they didn't have anyone, and it feels good to have a team that is actually, you know, worried about backing someone more than results, especially at this point. I feel like in the off season I showed enough speed for them to know that like, okay, like we have something. So it's just a good 50-50 partnership.
So it's actually changed quite a bit over there. When you came in, it was a Bobby Hewitt program. Now
Mhm.
Coker has come in. You haven't been racing through all this. And then you mentioned teammates now, which you didn't have a lot
Mhm.
of last year. Does it seem like a way different operation than it was like a year and a half ago, or is it not actually seem that different?
Uh, yes and no. Like we have such good people around that operate the whole deal that it creates a good environment. And when it's like that, like it feels like you're going to the track with your friends more than it is like going to the track and you're working, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's so many times when I was on Husky, like I'd go to the track and like maybe I'm struggling with the bike or whatever, and then you have the coster out there and then everybody out there and you're like, not that you're dreading it, but it's like it is like a stressful environment. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
no. And it is what it is. I'm sure like if I feel as good as I am on the bike now, I'm sure going to the track would have been whatever back then. But like it was. So now coming to the track, I feel like it's just pretty fun. Especially like coming off the last year. I didn't have anybody to ride with. Obviously Joey was in Florida and I think Evan was hurt for most of last year. But I didn't have anybody. So I would have like the locals that I was just friends with come out and ride and help me break in the track or whatever, and I would just do motos by myself.
Wait, seriously, these aren't even, are these even like pro dudes?
Yeah, they race pro, but
Okay.
like they're going to school and stuff too. Like that, you know what I mean? It's more like fun,
Wow.
Yeah. So
They're
I
going
would
to the
just have
factory test track.
no, yeah. But it was like either that or it was just me and my own lines all day.
Yeah.
And if the track was muddy, then I was pretty much cooked. There was nothing I could do. So
Yeah.
yeah, we would have a couple buddies come out that would help break in the track, and like it's changed drastically from that point. You know what I mean? Like now I can go to the track and have good fast teammates, and yeah, it's different in that aspect. I would say the personnel has stayed the same and it's pretty good. Obviously, Coker's a little bit of a learning curve. I've never been around Coker before, but so far so good. I mean, he's been good to me, so um, I'd say good.
Dude, what's crazy is I'm sure the bike has improved, but there was so little drama last year, at least as we could tell. It wasn't like the bike looked horrible. There were a
Mhm.
couple of mechanical things, but that honestly happens to every team.
Yeah.
Uh, has it actually improved that much? You're like, nah, man, it wasn't like when we got on it, we had some major, major problems to solve.
Um, honestly, for me last year, especially in outdoors, the only thing that I was like adamant on needing to get better was the power. I
Yeah,
felt like I mean, but I feel like that's not like a hot take though. Like every 250
that's
guys say
250
they want
class.
more power. Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Um, I thought we had a pretty well-rounded bike. I thought the bike was a lot better than what people probably thought it was last year. Obviously, it took a little minute for me to like find what works and
Yeah,
find my settings.
yeah,
Like I feel like Supercross last year, like I mean, come from the last and first turn to sixth for a first race, like a pretty gnarly track, and that was like with no real testing on it. And we also like we got the bike. I maybe had like a good month of training before we went to Supercross last year, like on the bike. We had some issues with parts and stuff coming in and kind of altered some of the training. But
yeah.
so we didn't have much time. We just kind of jumped into it. And then with that crash with Anstey, I ended up breaking my back. So like it took a lot longer to get to a good point on the bike because I was more so like after the crash with Anstey, there was no riding at the test track. Like Evan was hurt and I couldn't ride with a broken back in practice. I was like, I'll suffer through a race, but I ain't gonna suffer through practice, right? Like so I was going through to the races just with nothing. I was letting my suspension guy Drew know like, hey, whatever you seen on the weekend and thought would work, just throw it on the bike and I'll do it. Uh, so it wasn't until like Philadelphia where I feel like you guys actually seen a better me because I was like
Yes.
when my back was kind of more in a good spot and obviously that race. I mean, we when me and Seth went down, like Anstey was in that turn. That's due to one. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like we're right there. I feel like we've been in a good spot, and outdoors was kind of like Supercross to be honest. Like come in and yeah, I had a fifth, but like it was still like all right, we got some things to learn. And then Unadilla happened, and then Budds Creek, and like I started having like good momentum for these rounds, and that's when I was like clicking off top fives pretty consistently and being up there, you know.
Wait, so like last October, November, December leading to Supercross, were you riding a different bike or like a prototype bike, or were there just huge chunks where you're like, no, I'm not doing laps. I'm not riding.
It's hard to say. We would get a bike,
Yeah,
and then if something were to happen, we didn't have like enough parts to like,
right.
you know what I mean? If something
Fix
were to
it.
happen, we couldn't fix it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
we'd
you would
have to
take time
wait.
off.
Yeah, we would have to wait for parts to come from
Wow.
overseas.
Yeah.
So we couldn't really do much. And then so in that meantime, I would like take a stock bike and go ride outdoors. I would ride outdoors. Like that's pretty much all I could do.
I see.
So
That was
I'd ride
just for
outdoors.
seat time.
Yeah, just for seat time, literally. So most guys were doing Supercross, and I was doing outdoors, just on a stock bike, like just kind of figuring that, which actually worked out pretty good because like I learned a lot about the bike just riding a stock bike, if that makes sense. Like I learned what I like and what I want. Like I feel like sometimes you can get a factory bike and there's so much new stuff on it that
Yeah.
you almost forget the bones of the bike, like how you know what I mean, how you like it to do whatever you like it to do.
Right.
You know? So it was good for me in a way. Obviously, you want to be on Supercross at that point, but I wouldn't change anything. I think it made me a smarter dude,
Yeah.
and helped me learn a lot about what I needed to change when I needed it. You know.
Last thing about your current situation, do you know when you're back? Like the press release said, probably partway through outdoors. Do you have any idea, actually?
Uh, in my head, I think Southwick would
Okay.
be a nice one to come back to in my head.
Are you going to feel that way 20 minutes into the moto at Southwick? Are you going to agree with yourself? Will it feel
I'm
like a
from
nice one then?
I'm from Florida. I like sand.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So
so that's part of the reason why?
yeah, I don't mind sand. And that's part of the reason. I know. I mean, look, like you don't come off the couch and have the endurance to just go.
Right.
But my goal is to come back and outdoors it and just get seat time for next year because it would be for me. I feel like it would suck to miss all of this year and then expect to just be up there next year. I'd rather go in. I think speed wise, I'll probably be a tick off, but I don't think I'll be as far speed wise off as I will be endurance wise. So if I go in and get my ass kicked because endurance, it is what it is, and
Yeah.
I'll build off that. You're gonna get better every round, and I need seat time. Whether it's figuring out some off season races or what, but when that time comes, we'll see. But with the way PT's going and everything looks right now, like I don't see why I couldn't make some outdoor runs or at least SMX, get some points for that. So that's the goal and trying to stay positive for that.
It's a little like maybe too basic to compare Tomac's situation just to the same injury, but that's kind of what we saw with him. He was
Mm-hmm.
fast at times last year,
Mm-hmm.
but we didn't see the final completing it all the way to the checkers really until this year. So is that
Yeah.
what you kind of look at? Like the speed will come back, but I'm going to need a lot of time to get the 20 minutes or 30 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, and I know that. Like
Yeah.
just based off like even last year when we were talking about my back and missing time, like I would feel that time when I go to the races, and that's
Oh,
just a week off or 2 weeks off or whatever. So
wow.
like I know how it goes. I know the sport, especially like the boys are going so fast now and we're all so close now that like you'll know when someone's off. You know what I mean? Like when
Yeah.
somebody's not good or whatever. So I know that. I'm aware, and I've been racing pro long enough to like understand that, and I have a level headed mindset going into it. I know I'm probably not going to be where I need to be or where I want to be. And the team knows that, and they're backing me, and they understand that it's a build again a little bit. I feel like if I can just get some races under my belt, I feel like that'll do a lot for me when it comes off season. Because I feel like when I get a whole nother off season in and I can actually make it to the race, we'll be back to normal.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. A couple questions outside of your current situation. You happen to go to Tampa, I'm assuming, because hey, it's Florida, it's local-ish.
Hmm.
And then Malcolm Stewart ends up winning. Used to be a
Yeah.
teammate with him. I know you were a 7 gear athlete way back as an amateur and all that. I know you guys are tight. So it was cool. We saw you on TV down there by the podium. You were one of the 900 people that congratulated him. What was that experience like watching that happen? And then that happened to be the race you happened to go to this year.
No, it's crazy. I think, dude, I'm gonna go to Birmingham. So if he wins at Birmingham, he's got to go to all the races. But
Yeah, he's got to cut you into the bonuses.
yeah. No, dude, it was awesome. Like it's just kind of like a full circle moment, like when I was coming up and we had financial situations and like it was like all just me and my mom kind of figuring it out.
Yep.
And obviously Bobby Hewitt was a big deal back then. He was paying for my school and like all kinds of other
Wow.
stuff. And whatever I'd win, I would like help my mom when it came down to like whatever, groceries, light bill, whatever I could.
Yeah. Because
So
I guess
like
she was taking every dollar she had and spending it on racing.
well, wasn't that, but like I have two younger brothers
Oh,
and it's just her stuck with a house payment and my
yeah.
brother, me and everything. So like
Yeah, but racing is unbelievably expensive, dude.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like Husky, like pretty much made it possible to go racing. They paid for my practice mechanic,
I see.
and
Okay.
they paid
Yeah.
for ferry. They paid for my way to the race. Everything
Gotcha.
I paid at the race would pretty much go back home or to my mom or whatever the case.
Oh, so
Whatever.
the racing wasn't costing you a ton because Husky was supporting it enough.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
But amateur money ain't like huge
No,
money either. So
no.
um, but yeah, so going through those times, like Malcolm would always come to the races or whatever races he could, like Minios, he would always come to for me, and then Loretta's, he would stay with me, and
Yep.
he would do literally whatever he could to make sure that I was going to make it. And obviously Roger Larson and him at seven, like they obviously paid for a good bit and stuff. So I'm always thankful and grateful to him, and he's always treated me like a little brother. So it was nice to just see something pay off for him. He's such a good dude and so likable, and he's just a well-rounded dude. You know what I mean? Like you'll never be around Mookie and like not crack a smile. He's just a good dude. So going to that race and like I was sitting in the stands and watching or whatever, and I'm like, oh, dude, it's a pretty good night, like podium night. And then he
Hmm.
goes third, second. I'm like, oh, Chase is pretty out front. Like, yeah, second's good though. And
Yeah.
then the next thing you know, he's in the lead, and like the crowd goes crazy. It was awesome. It was pretty electric in that stadium. I don't think I've ever been in a stadium that like was so loud. And obviously I'm sitting in there bummed that I can't race, but I'm like, I feel like I'm winning, right now, watching him race. And so to see him win, it was awesome. Yeah, I went down to the podium and gave him a hug, and I just kind of got out of there. I didn't want to be one of those people that are like just kind of in the way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's not
congratulations.
about you in that situation. You
No,
just want to give
no,
it to
no,
him, and
not at
yeah,
all, not at all.
yeah.
So gave him a hug, got out of there, sent him a text after, and yeah, there's nobody that deserves it more than him, though. Especially being at Baker, seeing all the hard work. Like I know it goes into it, so that was big for him and his family. So super proud of him.
That's wild. That's the only race you went to so far this year, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Crazy.
crazy. And I came back and told Brandon, I'm like, dude, what are the odds that like the one race that I decide to go to, this wins? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Hey, I want to go back to what you said about your Husky deal. Okay, that's awesome that you got to that level. How did that happen? How did you get, to be one of the elite guys? And then that really changes the game when you get that kind of support. Do you remember like the family getting the phone call or someone approach you at the race? Like, how does that come about?
Um,
Or is it talking to mom and dad and you don't even know how?
well, I was a Orange Brigade kid coming
Okay.
up or whatever.
Yep.
Like it wasn't like a real deal. Like I got graphics and like whatever else they're like grips or something random.
Okay.
And they random. That's when they had the Husky. They had bought Husky
Yep.
and were kind of making that a thing or whatever. And
Yep.
I don't think they wanted me on their team. So they're like, hey, we're gonna move you to Husky. And it just so happened that like I got on that bike and I started doing pretty good. Obviously, I had a little bit of support. I think it was like 2 bikes a year or something like that.
Mhm.
But that's when obviously Hewitt kind of took over that program, and Scuba was involved. And I was doing good, and I was the only dude really on Husky. So I think that's how they got eyes on me. And yeah, I just kind of kept winning, really.
Mhm.
Bobby Hewitt came to Loretta's, I think, my super mini year, which it's funny I got signed there because it was like a terrible year for me. Like it was like a really stressful family year. It was like I was 14 or whatever, thinking about way too much stuff, like stuff that I wasn't supposed to be thinking about.
Yeah.
And it affected my week or whatever. And I remember I had this one moto where like I think I crashed and I don't know what happened, but I pretty much gave up. And I remember Hewitt, he had me come over to the rig or whatever, and he had my contract there. And he was like, I remember I sit down with my mom, and he's like, "Hey, I have this contract for you," but he's like, "But if it was up to me, oh, I'd rip it up." And I was like, I was sitting there, I was like, kind of a crazy thing to say in that. And I'm like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, and he's like, he's like, I have Jason, and he started naming off all these lists of guys that he's worked with or whatever, and he was like, nobody's ever given that, nobody. And then he was like, "You're the first person I need to offer a contract to that gave up." And like it stuck with me a little bit, like I'm like, oh, okay. And from that point, like it kind of clicked, like, okay, I have to make this work, especially with like how much my mom was sacrificing and my dad had sacrificed. It was like, all right, like I understand where this guy's coming from. I'm gonna make it work. So he ended up signing me, and from there it was like kind of just took off. Like I pretty much won all through amateurs. I traded some races or some titles with Pierce, and I think a couple titles with Lawrence, but for the most part it was like I was always one of the guys, and it just kind of took off from there. From there we grew like I grew like family relationship with Scuba. Scuba's like pretty much like my dad. And Bobby's like just my grandpa.
Pretty good. Yeah, but it's funny how that little turn, like that was a real, that wasn't everything, but that was a big part that
Yeah.
I'm going to tear this contract up
Yeah.
perspective that you got right there that day.
It was just like a nice little reality check. Like I feel like I was
Mhm.
like I was so in, and like I was doing good in races, but it was not like there was so much going on that I was more so along the lines of like I don't really care what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna go to the race and like what happens happens, whatever. I guess maybe I just didn't feel like it was possible maybe to like get to where I am,
Yep.
back then. So when someone as established as Hewitt comes up and he's like, I would rip it up.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I should get more serious. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, no, it's like one thing that stuck with me, and I feel like I haven't been much of the give up type, so I'd say it's made something out of me.
Yep. Last thing for you here. So this is, I asked all the racers this. So you have a factory ride and you have security. You even have a deal next year. I'm sure you're making more money than it is an amateur. Things have
Mm-hmm.
worked out pretty darn well for you. Do you have that perspective? Or is it like, nah, man, if I'm not winning all the time, winning titles, dominating, whatever, you can't be happy. I run into so many of you guys that are in this situation when they look back and be like, dude, those are the greatest days of my life, but I wasn't even pumped because all
Yeah,
I cared about was winning. How was that balance for you?
I was. I feel like I have a little bit of a different mindset when it comes to that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I did win, and like it was obviously fun to win, but I never like took winning back then as like I never knew it much more than like, okay, I just made some money to help out around home. Like
Yeah.
it was never really like, oh, I'm gonna win because whatever, I want to win. It was like I need to win
Okay.
because I need this money and I'm gonna bring this money back home. So like I never like I guess I don't know. I feel like I know where you're coming from, and I know it because I know a lot of these dudes who are winning and doing good too. So like I understand the mindset, but yeah, it was just a little bit different for me. And
What does it
now,
mean as a
like,
pro though? Like only one guy's going to win each class in
yeah,
Birmingham this weekend, and everybody else is going to be bummed,
yeah,
even if they get fourth. But in reality, they're doing what 99.9% of people that ride dirt bikes want to do, which is they're getting paid to
yeah,
ride. And you have
yeah,
multi-year deals. So it's not even like you have the pressure of I could be cut any day now. Can
yeah.
you be
No, I
happy when
mean,
you're doing that? Or is it like, nah, man, if I'm not winning, I can't really ever feel satisfied?
obviously, you ain't gonna like come off the track and not be on the podium and be happy though.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yep.
there's definitely like last year when I was starting to knock down top fives, I was more happy for the team than I was myself. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I'm proving that the bike is capable. I honestly, I don't feel like they have the opportunity to sign the people that they sign if it wasn't for me showing the bike is capable.
That's a good
So
point.
like
Yeah.
for me, um, I was just stoked on, you know, getting good results for the team because I feel like they deserve those results.
Yeah.
I was happy for myself to start making my way back to being of form. Like I feel like those last 2 years with Husky when we got that new bike, like I just couldn't make it work for me.
Yeah.
Um, so I struggled those 2 years, and it was really like I would have good flashes, but like it was never anything like myself, you know. And there was a lot of self doubt in that. So when I got with Triumph and like I started to kind of like see flashes of my old self and like my old style coming back and closing the gap to the guys that were seemed so far away when I was on Husky, like that to me was more rewarding than like just chasing results, you know. I know, especially with pro racing, it doesn't come overnight. So I know when I was like closing the gap that was the pace that I needed to be on and that was a good path for me. Um, and then when it came to the results, I was just happy for the team. Obviously, Unadilla was super sick. I was probably more happy about that third than I was when I won High Point. Like just being back to a podium guy, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like being back to where I would come to the race and like know I had the speed that I could make it happen. Not like, man, I hope it happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was pretty sick and getting transfers podium for those guys and everything like there was so much I guess happiness and like just I don't know, just like the morale was just so high, you know. Any other team, you know, that's like a podium is just another podium. Like they've had
Yeah.
tons of podiums before, but you know, this team is literally their first podium. So everybody was completely stoked and yeah, it was a special moment. But there'll be more of those to come. Not too worried about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So you're able to enjoy it. You're able to enjoy your job and not just live and die on the piece of paper at the end of it.
Nah, I think everybody has like miss is blinded by like results a little bit. Like, dude, we live like such an awesome life, you know. Like
Yep.
we don't do the 9 to 5s. We make good money doing something that we all love. Obviously, it's dangerous and it's draining and traveling and all that kind of stuff. Like it gets hard 100%. But I can always kind of take a couple steps back and just be thankful, you know, especially like my upbringing. I feel like I said earlier, I didn't expect to be here or feel like it was possible. So now being here, like, I'm happy. I feel like everybody's always super high stress in the sport and stuff. And I feel like I'm one of the only dudes that like walk around pretty stress free, carefree. And, especially like people on the internet, like trolling and stuff. Like, I don't give a shit. You can say whatever you want. I don't give up. I don't give, I don't care. I'm happy. I'm happy with where I'm at. I know the team's happy with me. Like life's good right now. And we make good money to go out and ride a dirt bike, dude. It can't get much better than that, you know?
That's yeah. I'm glad you're able to feel that now because I know too many dudes that probably 10 years after this would be like, I should have thought of it that way when I was doing it. Yeah.
Oh
Although we'll
yeah.
put it to the test. We'll see the comments on this. We'll put it to the test if you really can not care what people say.
No, dude, hey, it doesn't matter. I feel like too, like I feel like social media has gotten to a place where like it's almost like a game to see who can say the craziest thing on the internet. So like I feel like it's just like more and more people say stuff and I feel like it should be illegal to make these fake accounts, you know? You should have an ID put on your social media account to where like your name and everything has to be on. At least if you're gonna say some crazy shit, own up to it, you know, stand on it. But it is what it is, dude. You can't like get caught up in social media these days. Like there's so many people that like I feel like they wish that they were in a position or whatever the case to be. So it's like there's always like hatred behind it. You know what I mean? Can't take that.
Don't get weighed down on that. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
All right, nicely done. It was perfect. Glad to give you something to do for a half hour today.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I'll go back to figuring out something to do. I can actually get outside. So I just bought this house and now I've been my dogs like to go outside and dig holes. Okay. So I like to fill the holes in. That's about it.
Count that as PT. Walk the dog as PT for the Achilles.
No, I have PT. I go to PT. I come back. I do gym. I come back filling holes. I'm starting to get a little routine now. But before this point, it was like I was on the couch, my boot was up on the table, and it was like Netflix or video games. That was it.
All right. Well, congrats on graduating. See you at Birmingham, dude.
Yeah. Yep. See you in Birmingham.
All right. Good to catch up. We'll see you at a race.
Yeah.
Racing.
Yeah. Mookie's next win, dude.
That's it. You're going to get a cut of his bonuses.
Oh, I'm getting in that.
Yeah. See you, man.
See you.
Yep.
Later.